So this is something I wasn't expecting to do, but I'm going to try to break down all 12 episodes of Alter Memory, starting from episode 1 all the way to episode 12. Now, these videos won't be consistently coming out. They're kind of like random now when they're coming out, but I decided to do episode 1 now to try to get that out of the way. So, yeah, BlazBlue Alter Memory episode 1. Yeah, I'll have to do from episode 1 to episode 12, and then I'll just get all my thoughts out of the way. It'd be that easy. Just try to break down each episode and give my thoughts to after the episode, after I do the breakdown. So, without further ado, let's just go start talking about Alter Memory. So, the episode opens up with Ragna heading into the cauldron of Kagutsuchi, claiming that the smelting is near completion. Nu reveals herself and is excited to see Ragna, telling him if he's coming to kill her. Ragna simply says that people get killed and she's going to get destroyed by him. The two battle near the cauldron, with Ragna losing the battle, later getting stabbed by Nu's blades. As the two fall into the cauldron together, Hazama is watching over them. Meanwhile, Rachel is also watching the battle, saying that this happens again and again as the curtain falls. After the intro, Ragna is shown to be in a forest with heavy Seether all around him. As his arm reacts, Rachel appears and the two banter for a bit until she points him off to the 13th hierarchical city of Kagutsuchi. While Ragna wonders why he would even waste his time there in the first place, he realizes that he needs to destroy the cauldron there and decides to check it out. In a black space, Rachel and Hazama meet one another. Rachel tells Hazama to simply stay and watch the events unfold, but Hazama says that he'd rather not and continue doing as he pleases. Back at an NOL branch, a woman calling herself Second Lieutenant Noelle Vermillion comes to the office of Jin Kisaragi, handing him a letter that bears an Ars Magus seal, which meant the letter was classified. Once Jin reads it, he utters Ragna's name and heads after him in Kagutsuchi, leaving Noelle confused. While in Kagutsuchi, Ragna runs into Tao Kaka and feeds her as she guilt-tripped him into doing so. Tao claims that she's looking for a guy named Ragna the Bloodedge, showing him the infamous poster. Tao also says that she wants to lay in the sun and enjoy her time, leading Ragna to flash back to his life in the church with his brother and sister. As Ragna leaves the restaurant, he has another flashback about training with Jubei when he was a teenager. Jubei tells Ragna that the Azure is no one's power, and for him to never forget that. Meanwhile, Rachel says that Ragna's eyes are filled with hatred as both his home and his kin were both taken away. Hazama and Noelle finally arrive in Kagutsuchi, with Hazama telling Noelle that her mission is to catch Jin and bring him back. Noelle says that she is not to engage in any kind of contact with Ragna the Bloodedge, as he is now in Kagutsuchi, and while she's here, Hazama says that Noelle should check out the city. Annoyed of Tao following him, Ragna heads off by himself and falls asleep in a vacant spot. Noelle arrives to his location and lets him rest on her lap. As Ragna sleeps, he has a nightmare about his home burning down, with his brother, now wielding a sword, next to his sister as everything burns down. This nightmare woke Ragna up in a panic, and noticing that Noelle was near him, he backed away as her face looked exactly the same as his sister's. Ragna flees, and Noelle comments that Ragna is running off again like always, though she stops herself mid-thought, confused about why she even said what she said in the first place, considering the two have just met. Ragna walks through an empty NOL branch and meets Jin for the first time in years. Jin comments on Ragna's new arm and how it must have been better than the original one he stole from him, which he cut off. The two fight and the struggle ends in Ragna's victory. Coughing up blood, Jin told Ragna that he was too weak to finish him off, but Ragna brushes Jin off, leaving him injured on the ground. Before Jin passes out, he says that Ragna can't protect anyone because he's too soft. At the empty NOL branch, Noelle and Hazama arrive to see Jin injured on the ground. Noelle heads off to pursue Ragna for what he did to Jin, while Ragna himself travels down to the Kagutsuchi cauldron. Ragna heads to the lower levels and feels a presence so strong it causes his Azure Grimoire to become afraid. This is where he meets a masked individual named Hakumen, who recites his speech and charges at Ragna, ending the first episode. Now, for my overall thoughts of the episode, I feel like things are happening a little bit too fast. You know, they jump from, place to place a little bit too quickly because, there's not enough breathing room, especially where all the little in-between character moments are kind of cut out for the sake of, trying to rush the Calamity Trigger parts. For example, having Hazama set up this early is kind of like, I mean, it's not like he wasn't, you know, in the background of Calamity Trigger. It's just like they're doing this too early and setting him up as the obvious bad guy. They're not trying to be subtle about it. They're not trying to hide anything. They're just straight up saying, yeah, Hosmer's going to be the bad guy. He's going to, you know, wreck shit up. And I would have a problem with that, but they're just doing it a little bit too early. It's way too early. And you're still in the Calamity Trigger parts, like in the beginning. Like, we already know Hosmer's scheming and doing some shit, Calamity Trigger. Don't get me wrong, but they're trying a little bit too hard to push him this early. You know, just too early. There are some parts that I'm not really a big fan of. For example, it's just how it starts off is a little bit too fast. Now, it has Ragna going into the cauldron, going to the Kagutsuchi cauldron, meeting New for the first time, you know, getting that out of the way before, you know, he's in the forest with the Seeker and whatnot. But they are telling a lot more than what they're actually showing us. I mean, they're showing some stuff about how, you know, Ragna lost his family and whatnot. But Rachel says that right before you actually even see anything, you know, like, oh, Ragna's eyes are filled with hatred because, you know, he saw his family and home get burned down. But I would have preferred if they actually, you know, just showed that, like left Rachel's comment out and instead just showed it as the flashback to show why Ragna's acting the way he is instead of having Rachel comment on it. I feel like that would have been done better if she had not said anything, you know. It kind of like, you know, it's too easy, you know, like, it's like Ragna's whole family's gone and we see the flashback of him gone. His family, you know, everything going down. I would have preferred if all that shit was just said, like, not said, but just shown to us rather than Rachel just commenting on it. Ragna meeting Tao for the first time. I mean, it's go by really quick. You know, he meets her, they talk, they leave. You know, like, it's super simple. There's no restaurant brawl. I kind of would have liked that. There's no restaurant brawl or anything. There's none of that. I would have liked that or something, like, you know, I would have liked to see that. There's also some stuff about, you know, Hosmer and Noelle kind of bantering about, you know, how him and eggs and whatnot. Now, I know they're not able to add everything, but I feel like these character moments would have been a lot more pleasing to, like, you know, at least make the anime feel like they're fleshing out the characters rather than just making them go into the bullet points of, you know, the BlazBlue plot. You know, there's no breathing room for the characters to actually, you know, banter for a little bit. And it's funny because there was actually some good moments in, you know, Calamity Trigger, like, starting out the game where these characters are just banter, but no, they're just trying to get the bare minimum out the way. But, you know, it's too early. I know how the anime ends anyways, but I like to break this down to get this video out this way. But yeah, that's the first episode of BlazBlue Ultra Remake called The Red Rebel. So see you all next time for episode 2 if I decide to do it. I don't know if I'm going to keep this a consistent thing, but if I keep doing this, then I will, you know, get somewhere. But all right, so let's move on about this.